My name is Jae-min, and the first thing every hunter learns is that stats are forever. Strength, agility, defense, mana, intelligence, perception, luck. The moment you spend a point, it sticks to you for life. Rich families hire analysts before their kids even awaken. Guild heirs get 12-person strategy teams just to decide whether 1 point belongs in agility or perception. There are grown adults who have ended friendships over a bad strength investment at level 7. Me, I found out at age 16 that my status window had a tiny gray button under my stats. Reset. Cost, 0. Cooldown, none. At first I thought it was a tutorial feature, so I pressed it. Every number dropped to 1, and 97 unused stat points appeared in my hand like the universe had accidentally left admin privileges logged in. I nearly screamed. Then I put all 97 points into luck. A vending machine immediately dropped 2 sodas. That was my scientific method. The second experiment was intelligence. I dumped everything into it before a math test, stared at the first page for 3 seconds, and suddenly understood why my teacher had been lying when he said the problem was pretty straightforward. I finished in 9 minutes, corrected a typo in the exam, wrote an alternate solution in the margin, and then reset everything into agility so I could sprint home before my mother saw the school calling. That was when I understood. I did not have more points than anyone else. I had the same mediocre pile of points. I just had the world's most unfair refund policy. 3 years later, that tiny button got me accepted into Hainal Hunter Academy, the most prestigious academy in the country, where every student had either a famous bloodline, a legendary skill, or parents wealthy enough to treat dungeon raids like expensive extracurricular activities. My entrance evaluation began with a strength test. A steel golem stood in the arena holding a tower shield. We were told to hit it once. The guy before me, Kang Do-hyun, had awakened the rare class Titan Fist. He punched the golem so hard its feet sank into the floor. Everyone cheered when the machine displayed 8,420 impact power. Then I stepped forward looking like a guy who had wandered in because he heard there were free snacks. The instructor checked my file. Jae-min. Total stat score, 119? A few students laughed. That number was bad. Not catastrophic, but bad enough that nobody expected anything interesting. I smiled, opened my status window where only I could see it, reset my current build, and pushed everything into strength. The world changed instantly. My uniform tightened around my shoulders. The steel floor groaned under my shoes. My heartbeat sounded like somebody had trapped a drum concert inside my ribcage. I punched. The golem did not move. For half a second, everyone thought I had failed. Then the golem's shield folded inward, its chest compressed like a crushed soda can, and the entire 2-ton machine launched backward, flew through the target wall, crossed the equipment hall, and landed inside the faculty parking lot. There was a distant car alarm, then another, then 8 more. The display tried to calculate my score, flickered, and showed a sad little error symbol. The instructor stared at the hole in the wall. I stared too. That punch had apparently sent school property into a parking structure like I was mailing a refrigerator without postage. Somewhere, an insurance agent probably woke up in a cold sweat and whispered my name without knowing why. Naturally, everyone assumed I was a pure strength build. That misunderstanding lasted exactly 11 minutes. The second exam was an obstacle course designed to punish heavy fighters. Swinging blades, collapsing bridges, laser traps, pressure mines, rotating walls, and one section where mechanical wolves chased you for no reason except the academy dean clearly had emotional issues. I reset everything into agility. The starting bell rang. I vanished. I did not mean that poetically. The cameras actually lost me. 1 second I was crouched at the line. The next second I was standing at the finish, holding one of the mechanical wolf's fake ears because I had accidentally ripped it off while passing. The scoreboard recorded 4.2 seconds. The previous academy record was 38.6. Nobody cheered this time. The entire arena went quiet in the specific way people go quiet when reality has clearly violated terms of service. I looked up at the instructor. He looked down at his tablet. Then he looked back at me. "You're an agility type." "Sometimes." He blinked. I immediately realized that was not a normal answer. The third exam was mana output. This was where physical types usually died socially. A crystal pillar measured magical power. Students placed their hands on it and released mana. The brighter the crystal glowed, the higher the score. I reset everything into mana and intelligence. The moment my hand touched the pillar, blue light exploded through the hall. The crystal went white, then violet, then a color I am fairly sure the human eye was not supposed to see. All 30 magic lamps in the building turned on at once. The academy barrier activated. Somebody's enchanted lunchbox opened 3 floors away. The crystal cracked. A professor whispered, "Triple affinity?" I had no idea what that meant, so I gave him the expression of a man who definitely knew what that meant. By dinner, the entire academy had 3 competing rumors about me. 1. I was a hidden descendant of a legendary martial clan. 2. I had a forbidden speed class mutation. 3. I was secretly an archmage pretending to be bad at everything for psychological warfare. The correct answer was somehow more stupid. I was bad at everything, just never at the same time. The Academy assigned us combat rankings after orientation. I landed at rank 87 out of 100. That was because their ranking system used total stats, skill rarity, and previous dungeon records. My unique skill appeared to inspectors as a blank slot. No name, no rank, no description. Only I could see the reset button. So to the Academy, I was an average stat nobody with suspicious test results and no documented combat skill. Rank 87 suited me perfectly. The lower everyone rated me, the fewer questions I had to answer. Unfortunately, my plan survived until breakfast. A second-year student named Park Min-soo dropped his tray on my table and announced that I had cheated. He was rank 42, carried a giant axe, and had the personality of a comment section under a video titled, Top 10 Strongest Hunters Objectively. He challenged me to a supervised duel. The arena rules gave us 60 seconds of preparation. Min-soo saw my entrance strength result and wore a full anti-bruiser loadout, reinforced armor, knockback resistance boots, a strength-sealing bracelet, and a shield charm that reduced physical damage. I opened my status window, reset everything into mana and intelligence. When the duel started, Min-soo charged like he had personally declared war on geometry. I raised one finger and cast the only magic spell I knew, Spark. Spark was the beginner spell used to light campfires. With my temporary mana and intelligence, Spark became less campfire, and more, the sun sent a legal notice. A blue bolt struck his axe. His weapon heated instantly. He screamed, threw it away, and activated his shield charm. So I cast Spark at the floor beneath him. The reinforced arena tile detonated upward. He flew 3 meters, bounced off his own shield barrier, and landed in a sitting position. The duel ended in 9 seconds. I reset back to a balanced build before the medic arrived. Min-soo stared at me like I had just changed species mid-fight. You're a mage? Sometimes. I really needed a better answer. After that, students began stalking me. Not assassins. Worse. Theory nerds. They followed me between classes with notebooks, trying to determine my true class. A first-year girl spent 4 days building a spreadsheet of my combat footage. A class representative made a private group chat called, What is Han Jae-min? Someone leaked screenshots. By noon, the most liked answer was, tax evasion with legs. I respected that one. Things got more dangerous during our first dungeon practicum. 20 students entered a low-level gate under instructor supervision. The mission was simple. Clear goblins, recover 3 mana cores, return before dinner. The gate turned red. A red gate meant the exit disappeared until the boss died. It also meant the dungeon difficulty had changed. Our low-level goblin cave transformed into a giant underground city, filled with armored ogres. The instructor's face drained of color. Ogres were already bad. Armored ogres carrying enchanted cannons were worse. Armored ogres carrying enchanted cannons while riding giant lizards made me question whether the dungeon had been designed by a 12-year-old who had discovered caffeine. Students panicked. The instructor ordered us into a defensive formation. I checked my points, 123 now. I had gained 4 from the entrance tests and duels. Not enough to dominate a high-rank dungeon, but enough to become exactly what the team needed for a few seconds at a time. The first cannon fired. I reset into defense. I jumped in front of the group. The cannonball hit my chest and exploded. Smoke swallowed the tunnel. Everyone screamed my name. When the smoke cleared, I was still standing. My jacket was gone. My shirt was mostly a historical concept, but my body had taken the blast. I reset into strength before the second shot landed, grabbed the next cannonball out of the air, spun once, and threw it back. It hit the ogre artillery line. 3 cannons exploded. I reset into agility and rushed through the smoke before the shockwave finished expanding. Suddenly every ogre was moving slowly. Not actually slowly. My brain and body were just processing so fast that I had enough spare attention to notice one ogre had tiny reading glasses tucked into its armor. I ran up a wall, kicked off a hanging chain, crossed 20 meters, reset into strength in midair, and drove both feet into the largest ogre's helmet. Its skull did not break. The floor did. We fell through. The ogre, the instructor, 6 students, and I crashed into a hidden throne room. A boss health bar appeared. King Gorgath, Devourer of Knights, level 72. Our instructor was level 41. I was level 23. Everyone stared at the boss. The boss stared at us. Then it pointed at me. You. I pointed at myself. Me? You smell incorrectly. I had been insulted by monsters before, but that one felt weirdly personal. The king swung a sword the size of a delivery van. I reset into agility and dodged. The blade missed me and cut through 4 stone pillars. I reset into intelligence while sliding, studied the room, and noticed the throne was sitting above a glowing mana conduit. Then I reset into mana, fired spark at the conduit, and caused half the chamber to light up like a nightclub sponsored by poor safety decisions. The boss staggered. I reset into strength. I grabbed its ankle, and I pulled. The Ogre King weighed at least 5 tons. For 3 glorious seconds, I had no stats invested in common sense. I swung him around. Once, twice, 3 times. Then I released him directly into his own throne. The throne shattered. The mana conduit ruptured. The boss's enchanted armor overloaded and locked every joint at once. Our instructor recovered, shouted for everyone to attack, and 20 students dogpiled a paralyzed Ogre King with the emotional intensity of people trying to cancel a restaurant after receiving 1 cold French fry. That was how we survived our first practicum, and that was how my ranking jumped from 87 to 29 overnight. I hated it, because rank 29 attracted attention. Specifically, the attention of rank 1, Lee Se-rin. She was the Academy's golden monster, top score in theory, top score in dueling, top score in dungeon efficiency, heir to the Celestial Blade Guild. She had an S-rank skill called Battle Calculation that let her analyze enemy habits, predict attack choices, and build optimized counters. She had never lost an official duel, and while everyone else watched my Red Gate footage and yelled about how cool the ogre throw was, Seo-rin noticed something different. She noticed I never displayed 2 specialties at the same time. 2 days later, she sat across from me in the cafeteria. No greeting, no smile. She slid a tablet across the table. It contained 12 pages of charts. "You are changing something," she said. I kept chewing. "Changing what?" "Your body." I almost inhaled rice. That sentence at a cafeteria table had the energy of a police interview conducted inside a dating app. Seo-rin tapped the screen. During the cannon impact, your movement speed was average. 4 seconds later, your movement speed exceeded the Academy record. During the ogre throw, your mana signature dropped close to 0. During the conduit strike, your physical output was ordinary. She looked directly into my eyes. "You cannot be a hybrid. Hybrids divide resources. You do not divide. You replace." For the first time since entering the Academy, I felt genuinely cornered. Then the emergency siren began. The North Training Tower exploded, and something with 6 wings crawled out of the smoke. The thing climbing out of the North Training Tower looked like an angel designed by someone who had only heard angels described through a bad phone connection. 6 wings, 3 faces, a ring of black fire spinning behind its head, hands where its feet should have been, feet where I sincerely wish there were no feet. The Academy barrier sealed the campus. Professors rushed toward the tower. Students were ordered underground. Naturally, Seo-rin stood up and walked toward the explosion. I grabbed her sleeve. "Aren't we supposed to evacuate?" "Yes." She kept walking. That sounded like a yes with no commitment. "The professors will need combat data." I looked at the burning tower, then at her, then at my lunch. I had paid extra for fried dumplings. The monster screamed. Every window in the cafeteria shattered. I sighed, grabbed 2 dumplings, stuffed them into my mouth, and followed Seo-rin. This is how hunters die, by the way. Not heroic sacrifice. Not destiny. You simply make one terrible decision while chewing. Outside, the creature had already thrown 3 professors through a wall. A system warning identified it as a Calamity Apostle, level unknown. Unknown was never comforting. The last time I saw unknown on a status panel, a dungeon mimic ate a government inspector's clipboard, his shoes, and somehow his divorce papers. Nobody knew where it got the divorce papers. His wife was not even there. Seo-rin's eyes glowed silver as battle calculation activated. "Do not attack," she said. That was already high on my list. It reflects physical force. Good to know. It absorbs elemental mana. Less good. It reacts to killing intent before movement. Annoying. It has no obvious blind spot. That seems rude. The apostle turned all 3 faces toward us. Seo-rin drew her sword. I opened my status window. If it reflected physical force, strength was useless. If it absorbed mana, mana was useless. If it reacted before attacks, agility alone would not solve it. So I did something I almost never did. I put everything into perception. The world became unbearable. I could hear flames eating wood 50 meters away. I could smell ozone from the Academy barrier. I could see tiny muscle contractions beneath the apostle's skin. I could hear Seo-rin's heartbeat change every time the creature moved. Then I noticed something. The black halo behind its head was not rotating smoothly. Every 11 seconds it skipped. Not even for a full second. Maybe a tenth. But when my perception was high enough, a tenth of a second looked like a door standing open. "It has a reset interval," I said. Seo-rin glanced at me. "What?" "The halo. Every 11 seconds. She looked. Her battle calculation adjusted. Then her eyes widened. "You can see that? Sometimes." She looked angry that I had said it again. The apostle lunged. Seo-rin blocked. Her sword bent. I waited. 9 seconds. 10. 11. The halo skipped. I reset into agility. I moved before its reactive ability came back online. 1 step, 2, 3. I reached the creature's back. Reset into strength. I grabbed the halo. It burned through my palms. Reset into defense. The burning stopped hurting. Reset into strength again. Then I ripped the entire halo off. The apostle froze. All 3 faces made different expressions. One looked shocked. One looked furious. The middle face looked deeply offended, like I had pulled the wig off a celebrity during a live interview. Seo-rin moved instantly. Her blade pierced its exposed core. The apostle screamed, collapsed, and dissolved into ash. Silence covered the courtyard. Then my stolen black halo shrank into a ring the size of a bracelet. A system message appeared only for me. I had obtained an unknown relic. Reset fragment. My reset button flashed. For 1 second, a second option appeared beneath it. Save build. Then it vanished. I stared at the empty space. That was new. Seo-rin stared at me. Also bad. You changed 3 times in less than 1 second, she said. I slowly put my hands in my pockets. No, I watched you. Have you considered blinking? She did not laugh. That was the exact moment I learned something terrifying about Lee Se-rin. She could survive jokes. The academy suspended classes while investigators examined the tower. Nobody knew how the apostle had entered. The gate signature did not match any known dungeon. The creature had apparently emerged from a training portal that had been deactivated for 6 years. For students, that meant 3 days off. For me, it meant Seo-rin following me around like an extremely elegant tax auditor. She wanted proof. I refused. She challenged me to tests. I refused those too. Then she discovered my weakness. Money. She offered me 50,000 won for each harmless performance trial. I agreed before she finished saying harmless. The first trial involved catching a coin. She dropped it from shoulder height. I reset into agility and caught it. Then she threw 10 coins at once. I caught all 10. Then she mixed one blade-shaped throwing charm among the coins. I caught that too. Then she asked me to hold out my hand and placed 500,000 won on my palm. What is this test? Can you carry that much? Yes. Good. Keep it. I narrowed my eyes. What are you doing? Collecting data. The next morning she had rented a private training room. She had also invited Professor Bake, the Academy's combat statistics instructor. Betrayal. Professor Bake pushed his glasses up. Jae-min, we suspect your ability concerns temporary stat amplification. I nodded slowly. Technically wrong. Seo-rin placed 3 test machines around me. Strength. Speed. Mana. Perform each test within 10 seconds. That was easy. I hit the strength machine after a strength reset. I crossed the speed track after an agility reset. I blasted the mana crystal after a mana reset. Professor Bake looked at the results and nearly dropped his tablet. The output totals are almost identical. Seo-rin nodded. Because he is not gaining stats. He is moving them. I stopped smiling. Professor Bake went pale. He looked at me as if I had announced I could unboil eggs. That is impossible. I raised one shoulder. I also thought the Ogre King saying I smelled incorrectly was impossible. No, you don't understand. He stepped closer. Permanent allocation is a fundamental law of awakening. Skills can enhance stats. Equipment can supplement them. Temporary buffs can multiply them. But reassignment? If that exists, every combat doctrine built in the last century becomes incomplete. I hated how excited he sounded. Scientists should never sound excited while looking directly at you. That is how you wake up inside a glass cylinder wearing fewer clothes than the situation requires. I made them promise not to report my ability. Seo-rin agreed. Professor Bake agreed after Seo-rin reminded him that the Celestial Blade Guild funded his laboratory. Rich people had terrifying conversation shortcuts. In exchange, I agreed to participate in controlled research. That lasted 2 hours. Then Professor Bake asked what would happen if I allocated every point into luck inside the Academy Relic Vault. So obviously we tried it. The Relic Vault contained hundreds of sealed artifacts recovered from dungeons. Most were damaged, unidentified, cursed, or legally classified as do not touch this unless 3 supervisors are present. I had 126 points now. I reset everything into luck. Immediately, a loose screw fell from an overhead ventilation panel, bounced off a shelf, struck a sealed box, triggered a harmless opening mechanism, and revealed an unidentified silver coin. The coin rolled off the table. I bent to pick it up. At that exact moment, a cursed spear launched itself from the wall and passed over my head. The spear hit another case. That case opened. Inside was a rare mana crystal worth more than my apartment building. Professor Bake stopped taking notes. Seo-rin stared. I took 1 step backward. The floor panel cracked. My heel dropped into a maintenance gap and pressed a hidden emergency release. A secret compartment opened beneath the relic vault. Inside sat a golden chest. Nobody spoke. I looked at my luck stat, then at them. This feels illegal. The chest contained 1 item, a tiny wooden spoon. Professor Bake's face collapsed. Seorin actually laughed. Then the spoon displayed its description. Mythic relic, Feast of Kings. Any food eaten with the spoon granted a random temporary buff. The chance of a rare buff increased with luck. Professor Bake grabbed my shoulders. Do you understand what this means? I looked at the spoon. I can weaponize yogurt? We tested it at lunch. I kept all my points in luck, used the spoon to eat one bite of curry, and received a 30-minute buff called Draconic Digestion. Nobody knew what it did. Then Minsu walked by and slapped me on the back. I burped. A cone of fire shot across the cafeteria and roasted an entire rack of bread. Minsu slowly lowered his hand. I slowly closed my mouth. Across the room, one student whispered, "He has dragon blood too?" By evening, the rumor board had added a fourth theory. I was an ancient dragon hiding in human form. At this point, I was collecting secret identities like streaming subscriptions I forgot to cancel. The academy reopened the next day because apparently a six-winged calamity creature emerging from a classroom was only worth a 72-hour interruption. Our next event was the midterm class tournament. Students fought in teams of 5. Winning teams earned dungeon credits, rare gear access, and ranking points. I was assigned to Team 14 with Minsu, a healer named Yuna, a summoner named Taeho, and a tiny spear fighter named Choinari, who was 4 feet 11 and had enough violence in her personality to qualify as regional weather. Our first opponents were 5 ranged specialists. The second the match began, arrows and mana bolts filled the arena. I reset into defense and became the shield. Minsu hid behind me. I thought you were a mage. Today I'm furniture. Neri used my shoulder as a stepping platform and launched herself over the enemy line. We won. Second match, heavy tanks. I reset into intelligence and perception, found the weak points in their formation, then shouted directions while Taeho's summoned boar bulldozed their healer. We won. Third match, illusion team. I dumped everything into perception and saw through every fake. We won. By the semifinals, the crowd was chanting my name. That was terrible for stealth but excellent for ego. Our semi-final opponent had prepared specifically for me. They fielded a rare specialist named Moonday Sick, whose ability created an equalization field. Inside his barrier, no stat could exceed his own highest stat by more than 10 points. For normal hunters, that ability was annoying. For me, it was disgusting. My extreme builds disappeared. If I put everything into strength, the field chopped it down. Agility, chopped. Mana, chopped. Defense, chopped. Day 6 spread his arms while the barrier covered the arena. I know your weakness now. The crowd gasped. I checked my status window. He was right. My entire strategy depended on extremes. So I reset. Then I distributed my points almost evenly across every stat. Strength, agility, defense, mana, intelligence, perception, luck. Daysik frowned. His equalization field did nothing, because no stat was extreme enough to suppress. I was not amazing at anything, but I had become annoyingly competent at everything. He charged. I dodged with decent agility, blocked with decent defense, countered with decent strength, used a small mana burst with decent mana, read his footwork with decent perception, predicted his next move with decent intelligence. Then luck activated in the dumbest possible way. His shoelace snapped. He tripped. Nari flew past me like an angry lawn dart, and struck his helmet so hard the barrier collapsed. The crowd exploded. Daysik lay face down on the floor. I looked at him and felt almost bad. Imagine spending 3 weeks designing the perfect anti-cheese strategy only to lose because the enemy selected the terrifying forbidden build known as moderately okay at several things. We advanced to the final. That should have been the big problem. It was not, because our final opponent was Lee Se-rin's team, and she had watched every single match. When our eyes met across the arena, she smiled for the first time. Not a friendly smile. A spreadsheet smile. The kind of smile that said she had 15 tabs open, and one of them was definitely named How to Ruin Jae-min. Seo-rin's team was horrifying. Not because they were all individually stronger than us, although they mostly were. Because Seo-rin had assigned each teammate a job designed specifically to make my life miserable. Her tank, I'm Kyung-ho, carried a mirror bastion shield that reflected mana attacks. Her archer, Sarah Kim, used tracking arrows that became faster when the target moved faster. Her support, June Park, cast Frailty Mark, which dealt increased damage to high defense targets. Her brawler, Oh Jin-tae, had the skill Giant Slayer, which increased his strength against anyone with a higher strength stat than his own. Then there was Seo-rin. She had battle calculation, perfect sword technique, and the unsettling calm of someone who organized browser bookmarks by emotional damage. Every extreme build I used had a punishment attached. Strength made Jin-tae stronger. Agility made Sarah's arrows faster. Defense made Frailty Mark hurt more. Mana bounced off Kyung-ho. Seo-rin had not countered one build. She had countered the concept of me. The countdown began. Min-soo leaned toward me. What's the plan? I have one. What is it? I'm still emotionally preparing to hear it. The bell rang. I reset everything into luck. Seo-rin's expression changed, only slightly. but I saw it. She had expected a balanced build after the equalization match. She had modeled strength, agility, defense, mana, intelligence, perception, and balanced distributions. Nobody models luck because luck is a stat for gamblers, treasure hunters, and people who think pulling a legendary pet from a loot capsule counts as personal growth. I sprinted forward with completely average speed. Sira fired a tracking arrow. It curved toward my chest. A loose fragment of tile flipped under my shoe. I stumbled. The arrow missed me by an inch and hit Jintae's shoulder armor. He spun. His elbow smashed Gyungho's shield sideways. Minsu's axe struck the exposed edge at the same moment. The mirror bastion flew away. Seo-rin narrowed her eyes. I kept running. June cast Frailty Mark. A bird flew through the open arena roof. I have no idea why. The spell hit the bird. The bird gained a glowing red skull icon, panicked, and began attacking June's hair. The audience lost its mind. June ran in a circle while being bullied by wildlife. I reached Seo-rin. She swung. I did not dodge. My shoelace snapped. Again. I dropped unexpectedly as her blade passed over my head. Luck, she said. Sometimes. I swept her leg. She hopped over it. Of course she did. Luck could create openings. It could not make me skilled enough to capitalize on them. Seo-rin's blade came down. I reset into agility for exactly half a second. Sira's next tracking arrow accelerated. Perfect. I moved behind Seo-rin. The arrow curved. Seo-rin sensed it and ducked. I reset into defense. The arrow hit me in the chest, failed to penetrate, ricocheted off my tournament armor, struck the arena barrier, changed direction again because the tracking enchantment had not expired, and flew straight back at Sira. Her own safety charm teleported her out. One opponent eliminated. Seo-rin realized what I was doing. I was not choosing a build to defeat her strategy. I was switching builds to make her own counters attack each other. I maxed strength. Jintae's giant slayer activated, and his muscles doubled in size. He charged me. I reset to 1 strength just before impact. His buff vanished mid-punch. His momentum changed. He overextended. Neri stabbed the floor beside his foot, hooked his ankle with the shaft, and yelled, "Delivery!" Taeho's summoned boar rammed him directly into the boundary barrier. Eliminated. I maxed mana. Gyungho recovered his mirror bastion and raised it. I fired spark. He reflected it. I reset into agility and stepped aside. The reflected bolt hit June, who was still losing a custody battle with a bird. Eliminated. Gyungho looked around. His whole team had turned into collateral damage. Minsu grinned. 5 seconds later, 4 of us tackled Gyungho at once and pushed him out. Only Seo-rin remained. She looked at her eliminated teammates, then at me. Then she started laughing. That was more frightening than if she had screamed. Her silver eyes brightened. Battle calculation expanded. I could almost feel it measuring me. She moved. I reset into defense. She stopped her strike before touching me. Reset into agility. She changed stance before I moved. Reset into strength. She backed away before I attacked. Every time I changed, she read the change through tiny physical clues. Muscle tension, breathing, center of gravity, mana circulation. She could not see my status window. She did not need to. She was learning to identify my build the instant it manifested. Then she attacked between resets. The flat of her blade struck my ribs. I flew sideways. Before I hit the ground, she was already there. I reset into defense. She did not hit me. She kicked sand into my eyes. I reset into perception to recover orientation. That lowered my defense. Her sword handle hit my stomach. I folded. This woman had turned observation into bullying. I rolled away, reset into agility, and created distance. She followed. I switched to mana. She raised her anti-magic charm. I switched to strength. She changed footwork. Every answer had an answer. So I did something stupid. I opened the status window and reset. Then I did not allocate anything. Every stat dropped to 126 unused points. Seo-rin froze. My body went weak instantly. My knees almost buckled. My senses dulled. My mana became pathetic. My strength was basically decorative, and battle calculation lost me, because all the physical indicators she had learned vanished. I became the combat equivalent of an unplugged appliance. Her next prediction expected a switch. I did nothing. She hesitated. That was all I needed. I allocated everything into agility after she had already committed. I flashed past her. Reset into strength. She twisted to block. I reset into mana before contact. Her physical guard became useless. Spark detonated against the ground between us. She flew backward. I reset into agility before the smoke cleared. Reached her landing point. Reset into defense and simply stood there. Seo-rin crashed into me. She bounced. Neri, who had been waiting 15 meters away with the patience of a small angry crocodile, kicked Seo-rin across the boundary line. The arena erupted. We won the class tournament. Seo-rin sat outside the boundary staring at me. I expected anger. Instead, she smiled again. You found a null state. I sat down because switching that fast made my head feel like somebody had microwaved my thoughts. I found being terrible at everything. No, a state with no readable specialization. That sounds more marketable. She stood and offered me a hand. You are still inefficient. I took it. We just beat you. You required a bird. The bird was a core member of our strategy. 3 days later, the academy placed me at rank 11. My peaceful life was now officially dead. I became popular overnight. Students asked for training advice even though my advice was useless for anyone whose stats obeyed basic laws. What should I invest in? One guy asked. What do you fight? Mostly undead. Probably not luck. Why? I once maxed luck against a skeleton, and it accidentally fell down a staircase. But then the staircase collapsed and revealed 40 more skeletons. He wrote that down. No, don't write that down. The next month brought the arcane qualification exam, where every student had to demonstrate magical theory and spell control regardless of class. Physical fighters hated it. I loved it, not because I was naturally talented. I had spent my whole childhood thinking mana was the blue bar other people had. But right before the written exam, I reset heavily into intelligence. The test booklet opened. Suddenly every diagram looked obvious. I read ancient runic grammar like subtitles. I identified 7 flaws in the Academy's standard barrier equation. I also became painfully aware that the student beside me had been clicking his pen every 1.7 seconds for the last 12 minutes. Extreme intelligence came with side effects. My brain could solve multi-stage spell equations, but also decided to calculate the statistical probability that the instructor had chosen his tie deliberately. It was 0. The practical exam was worse. We had to cast 5 spells: Flame, Barrier, Levitation, Mana Thread, and Cleansing. I only knew Spark. Fortunately, high intelligence let me understand spell structures almost instantly, and high mana let me brute force the parts I did not understand. Flame spell? I accidentally created a fire serpent that circled the arena and toasted the examiner's clipboard. Barrier? I made one so dense the instructor threw a training spear at it, and the spear shattered. Levitation? I lifted the target box, then the platform, then 2 chairs, then the examiner. I lowered him immediately. He wrote something on a new clipboard. Probably keep this boy away from gravity. Mana thread required delicacy, so I reset mostly into perception and intelligence. I threaded a needle from 50 meters away. Cleansing magic was last. I maxed mana and intelligence again, copied the structure, and cast it on a cursed training doll. White light filled the room. The curse vanished. So did every stain on the floor. So did the examiner's coffee. The liquid remained, but apparently all coffee flavor counted as impurity. He took 1 sip and stared into the cup like I had killed someone close to him. That might have been the most unforgivable thing I did all semester. A grown man looked at me like I had reached into his childhood and deleted Saturdays. I scored first place, above Seorin, by 1 point. She found me outside the exam hall. You memorized 300 spell structures. No. You knew all 12 ancient rune families? No. You practiced advanced cleansing? I learned it 30 seconds before casting. She stared. I could see battle calculation trying to process whether academic violence counted as combat. Then she sighed. You are irritating. Sometimes. She actually almost smiled. The academy rankings updated. I moved to rank 7, and that was when people outside the academy started paying attention. Scouts from major guilds attended our matches. News channels discussed my multi-class awakening. A famous analyst made a 40-minute video claiming I possessed 7 souls. My mother sent me the link and asked why I had never told her about my 6 additional roommates. Then the assassin came. I was walking back from a convenience store at midnight, carrying instant noodles and banana milk, when the streetlights went out. My perception was only 15, too low. A blade touched the back of my neck. A voice whispered, "Don't move." I froze. The attacker wore a black mask and an anti-mana cloak. Professional. Jae-min, he said. You'll come with me. Can I put my groceries down? No, my banana milk is leaking. Silence. I felt the knife press closer. I opened my status window. The assassin could not see it. Reset. Everything into defense. He cut. The blade snapped on my neck. Both of us paused. He looked at the broken knife. I looked at the banana milk. Then he pulled a second blade. I reset into agility. He stabbed empty air. I was suddenly behind him. He spun with terrifying speed. Professional, definitely. I maxed perception. Now I could see the slight shift in his shoulder before each attack. He used a feint, then another, then 3 hidden needles. I reset into defense. The needles bounced off my forehead. One hit a parking meter. The meter made a sad beep. The assassin stopped. I think I had damaged him emotionally. Imagine training for 15 years in secret killing arts, mastering silent movement, poison needles, pressure point attacks, and shadow concealment, only to watch your best weapon bounce off a college student's forehead next to a convenience store selling 2-for-1 shrimp chips. He activated a skill. 5 shadow clones appeared. I maxed intelligence and perception. 4 clones lacked heat distortion. Fake. I threw my leaking banana milk at the real one. He flinched. I maxed strength. 1 punch hit his stomach. I stopped myself before full contact. but even the reduced blow launched him into a parked scooter. The scooter alarm began screaming. A second assassin dropped from a rooftop, then a third. Then 6 more figures appeared at both ends of the street. I stared. This feels excessive. A woman in a white mask stepped forward. Your ability is worth more than your life. That sentence removed the comedy. They knew, not the rumors, not the fake dragon theory. They knew enough to target my ability. I reset into agility and ran, not because I could not fight. Because 9 professional assassins appearing outside my convenience store meant the fight was no longer the important part. The important question was who had sent them. As I sprinted across rooftops with 8 assassins chasing me, and one still reconsidering his relationship with the scooter, a message appeared in front of my eyes. The black reset fragment On had taken from the apostle began glowing inside my inventory. A new system line appeared. Save build unlocked. Build slots available. 3. I almost missed a rooftop, because resetting my stats had always been instant, but allocating them took thought. Even fast thought cost fractions of a second. Now I could save entire stat distributions and swap them with one command. The assassins behind me had no idea. Neither did I, but I was about to test it on them. I named the 3 slots before I reached the next building. The first was Fortress, nearly everything in defense. The second was Comet, nearly everything in agility. The third was Hammer, nearly everything in strength. Original names? No. I was being chased by assassins across rooftops while carrying noodles in one hand. My branding department was under pressure. The white-masked woman appeared beside me. Faster than my normal agility allocation because I had wasted precious points keeping enough defense to survive mistakes. I thought Comet. My build changed instantly. No dragging points. No hesitation. Pure agility. I disappeared from her reach. She threw a chain blade. Fortress. The blade wrapped around my arm and tightened. It could not cut me. Hammer. I yanked. She flew toward me so fast her coat became a flag. Comet. I stepped aside. She passed me. Fortress. Her shoulder hit mine. She bounced off and crashed through an air conditioning unit. The swaps were clean. Too clean. Before save build, every switch had required me to open the window, reset, then allocate points. I had become fast at it, but it still took concentration. Now combat felt like changing channels. The assassins surrounded me on the next rooftop. One attacked high. Fortress. His sword stopped. Hammer. I broke the sword with 2 fingers. Comet. I crossed behind another attacker. Hammer. I flicked the back of his helmet. He spun through 2 laundry lines and disappeared into somebody's rooftop sheets. A third tried poison gas. That was not a stat problem. I held my breath and ran. Never let a cool power convince you poison gas is negotiable. The movies teach people to stand in mysterious smoke and ask, "What is this?" No. If unknown purple fog starts crawling toward you, you leave. I do not care if your soulmate is inside it holding concert tickets. Romance can reschedule. I reached the edge of the district and saw Seo-rin standing on the opposite rooftop. She was wearing pajamas under a long coat. Her sword was already drawn. Behind her stood Professor Bake and 3 Academy security officers. Apparently my emergency message had gone through. The assassins stopped chasing. The white-masked woman landed between us. Seo-rin's silver eyes activated. "You sent 9 people after 1 student," she said. The woman tilted her head. "We sent 12. 3 invisible figures appeared behind the security officers. I maxed perception manually. Too late. One assassin struck Professor Bake with a black needle. He collapsed. Everything inside me went cold. Seo-rin moved. Her blade crossed the rooftop. One attacker went down. I switched Comet, crossed the distance, then Fortress just before a hidden dagger hit my ribs. Hammer. I drove my elbow backward. The attacker folded. The rooftop became chaos. Seo-rin and I fought back-to-back without planning it. She predicted enemies. I changed myself. She shouted, "Left, Comet." I moved. "Brace, Fortress." A shock grenade exploded. "Now, Hammer." I punched through a water tank and sent a wall of water across the roof, revealing every invisible assassin at once. Seo-rin cut through their weapons while security restrained them. The white-masked leader escaped by jumping into a black portal. Before it closed, she looked directly at me. "The architect wants his points returned." Then she vanished. That sentence stayed in my head. His points returned. Professor Bake survived. The needle had been a paralysis toxin, not poison. When he woke in the academy clinic, he listened to my explanation and immediately asked to see the reset fragment. Seo-rin crossed her arms. He was almost kidnapped. Professor Bake nodded. "Yes, very concerning. Now show me the ancient reality-breaking artifact." Researchers were a disease. I placed the black ring on the table. Professor Bake scanned it. His expression changed. "This material appears in records from the first gates. The first gates had opened almost a century ago. Nobody understood why. The dungeons appeared. Monsters poured out. Humans awakened. and civilization rearranged itself around status windows and mana cores. Professor Bake brought up an old photograph. A stone tablet recovered from the first cleared dungeon. 7 symbols were carved into it. Strength, agility, defense, mana, intelligence, perception, luck. At the bottom was an 8th symbol, a circle broken by an arrow, the same symbol as my reset button. My stomach dropped. Professor Bake whispered, "Your skill may not be a skill." Siorin looked at me. I looked at the ancient symbol. Then the academy announcement system chimed. The individual ranking challenges would begin the next morning. I laughed, not because anything was funny, because apparently discovering that my entire power might be connected to the origin of dungeons was not enough to get me excused from school sports. Hanyul Academy had priorities carved out of diamond. The ranking challenge was simple. Any student could challenge someone above them. Win, and you took their rank. Lose, and you could not challenge again for a month. I was rank 7. Before breakfast, ranks 6, 5, and 4 challenged me in sequence. The academy suspected my ability now, but only Saorin and Professor Bake knew the truth. Everyone else still thought I had some strange adaptive class. Rank 6 was a fire mage. I maxed mana and intelligence, copied his flame control pattern, then made his own fire dragon turn around and chase him. Rank 5 was a speed swordsman. I maxed defense. He struck me 37 times in 5 seconds. I took 0 meaningful damage. He stopped because his wrists hurt. Rank 4 was a mental illusionist. I maxed intelligence and luck. His nightmare spell showed me my greatest fear. My mother opening my browser history on the Academy auditorium screen. I broke the illusion in 0.3 seconds through raw survival instinct. The illusionist asked what I had seen. I told him some knowledge destroys nations. By lunch, I was rank 4. Rank 3 challenged me that afternoon. She was Che-Mira, a summoner with an S-rank contract, the Crimson Hydra. The beast had 9 heads, each using a different element: fire, ice, lightning, poison, acid, wind, stone, darkness, and 1 head that apparently just screamed extremely loud. I respected the specialization. I saved 3 new temporary builds before entering the arena, replacing my assassin setup, a high mana anti-element build, a max agility evasion build, and something experimental, maximum intelligence and perception. Mira summoned the Hydra. The arena shook. 9 heads roared. The screaming head somehow roared louder than the others, despite that being its entire gimmick. I used intelligence and perception. Instead of attacking, I watched. The heads shared one body. Their elemental attacks required synchronized mana circulation through a central chest core, but each head demanded mana at a different rhythm. Mira was controlling all 9 through separate commands. That meant she was basically managing 9 group project members at once. No wonder she looked exhausted. I started dodging and shouted nonsense at different heads. Fire head, ice head said your flames are small. Mira blinked. What? Lightning head, poison head thinks you're adopted. Stop talking to them. The Hydra did not understand Korean. That was not the point. Every time I shouted, Mira unconsciously shifted attention toward the referenced head. My high perception caught the tiny changes in mana flow. I learned her control rhythm. Then I switched to max mana and fired 9 sparks in sequence. Not at the heads, at the ground around them. Each blast forced Mira to issue defensive commands out of order. Fire defended when ice expected mana. Lightning attacked during stone's circulation. The Hydra's shared core jammed. All 9 heads sneezed at once. The screaming head somehow sneezed like a truck horn. The summon collapsed into red mist. Mira stared at the empty arena. I had defeated an S-rank Hydra by giving its owner the magical equivalent of too many notifications. She surrendered. I became rank 3. Rank 2 was absent on a dungeon expedition, which meant only 1 person remained above me. Si Ho-rin. She did not challenge me. She did something worse. She scheduled the duel for 1 week later. Public arena. Full academy attendance. Guild scouts invited. Broadcast rights approved. She wanted preparation time. For 7 days, I barely saw her. Then I discovered why. She had requested every recording of every fight I had ever participated in. Entrance tests. Minsu duel. Red gate. Apostle battle. Team tournament. Magic exam. Hydra match. Even convenience store security footage from the assassination attempt. She studied my transitions. She measured how my posture changed. She cataloged which stat I preferred against every attack type. She interviewed my teammates. Neri sold her information for spicy fried chicken. I was betrayed for poultry. Seo Ren built a new equipment set specifically for me. A sword with adaptive weight. Boots that disrupted high-speed movement. Armor coated against heat and electric mana. A bracelet that generated soft impact shockwaves to bypass rigid defense. 7 tiny relics around her belt, each tuned to a different stat profile. The Academy forums called it the Jae-min extermination package. People made fan art. One image showed Seorin carrying bug spray with my face on the can. I saved it. It was well drawn. Professor Bake asked what counter build I planned to use. I had no answer. Every build she had seen was compromised, so I went back to the first lesson my power had taught me. The value was not in having the perfect build. The value was in refusing to stay the person my opponent prepared for. The night before the duel, I stared at my status window. My total points had risen to 142. Still not extraordinary. Jae-min had an estimated total above 180. In raw numbers, I was weaker. I looked at the 3 save build slots. Then I deleted all of them. Fortress gone. Comet gone. Hammer gone. The next morning, the Academy arena was packed. Students filled every seat. Guild representatives occupied private boxes. My mother was in the audience holding a sign that said, "Please stop breaking buildings." I had not known she was coming. This was psychological warfare. Jae-min entered wearing her custom gear. The crowd screamed. I entered wearing standard Academy armor. The crowd screamed louder. She stopped across from me. "You deleted your saved builds." My smile vanished. "How do you know that?" "I don't." She smiled. "You just told me." I stared at her. That was filthy. The referee raised his hand. Jae-min lowered her stance. "Every recorded version of you has a counter now," she said. I opened my status window. "I know, and your total stats are lower than mine." "I know. If you use extreme strength, my blade redirects force. Extreme agility, my field destabilizes your footing. Extreme defense, my resonance charm bypasses durability. Extreme mana, my armor disperses output. Perception, I overload your senses. Intelligence, I force rapid randomness. Luck, I minimize environmental variables." "I know." The referee's hand dropped. The duel began. Jae-min exploded forward. I did not choose strength. I did not choose defense. I did not choose agility. I rebuilt from 0 into something I had never used before. 34 perception, 29 agility, 26 intelligence, 23 defense, 15 strength, 8 mana, 7 luck. Jae-min's sword missed my neck by a centimeter. Her eyes widened. Not because I was faster, because I had built specifically to read her. She had created 7 relic counters against 7 extreme profiles. I had created an 8th profile designed around one person, her. My perception caught the beginning of her attacks. My intelligence interpreted battle calculations' preferred patterns. My agility gave me just enough movement to respond. My defense covered tiny mistakes. My strength was enough to redirect her sword, not overpower it. My mana existed only to create microscopic sparks for visual interference. My luck was not high enough to cause chaos. It was just high enough to be annoying. Jae-min attacked 12 times. I avoided 11. The 12th cut my cheek. The audience exploded. I smiled. She smiled back. Then she changed. Her sword technique became irrational. She stopped using Academy forms. She kicked, headbutted, threw a belt relic at me without activating it. I barely dodged. Of course, she had prepared for me preparing for her. This duel had become 2 people repeatedly saying "actually" with weapons. She activated all 7 counter relics at once. The arena filled with interference fields. My hybrid build began collapsing under overlapping pressure, so I reset everything to 1. Null state. Jae-min predicted that too. She rushed during my weakest instant, but save build was already active. I had created 3 completely new profiles during the previous minute. Not before the match. During it, the first I called Ghost. High perception and agility, with nothing else. I switched. Her sword missed. Second, Needle. Almost everything in strength, but enough perception for a single precise strike. I switched and flicked the flat of her sword exactly at its resonance point. The adaptive blade vibrated. Her grip broke. Third, Candle. Everything in mana and luck. No intelligence. No spell theory. Just raw magical fuel and terrible decision-making. I cast Spark. The weakest spell in the Academy. Without intelligence shaping it, the spell should have been unstable. With huge mana and unusual luck, it became a wandering ball of blue lightning that bounced off the floor, curved around Jae-min's anti-magic armor, struck one of her belt relics, jumped to another, then another, and triggered all 7 at once. Her entire counter system overloaded. The blast launched both of us backward. I switched to Fortress, except Fortress no longer existed. I had deleted it. For one incredibly educational half-second, I tried to activate a build that was not there. Nothing happened. I hit the wall at full speed. The audience went silent. My soul temporarily left the group chat. Across the arena, Jae-min was on one knee. Her armor smoked. Her sword lay 10 meters away. I stood up. Barely. She stood too. No relics. No sword. No prepared counters. My status window flickered from the impact. We looked at each other. Then we both laughed. Now it was simple. She had more total stats. I had reset. We ran at each other. I put everything into strength. She expected it. At the last instant, I reset into agility. She expected that too. So I reset again. Everything into luck. Jae-min's face changed. No, I threw one punch with strength 1. It was pathetic. She could have blocked it with a napkin, but at that exact moment, the arena sprinkler system activated. Apparently, our overloaded relic blast had heated a ceiling sensor. Water sprayed down. Sudump's boot landed on the broken metal casing of one of her own relics. Her foot slipped. My weak punch tapped her shoulder. She fell backward across the boundary line. Silence. Then the referee looked at the line, looked at me, looked at Seorin, and declared me the winner. The stadium detonated with noise. I became rank 1 at Hainal Hunter Academy because my opponent slipped on a piece of equipment she had purchased specifically to defeat me. Seorin remained on the floor for several seconds. I walked over and offered my hand. She looked at it. You used luck. Strategically. The sprinkler defeated me. Team effort. She took my hand and stood. You understand that I hate you. Sometimes? She laughed. For 1 minute, everything felt perfect. Then every status window in the stadium appeared at once. Not just mine. Everyone's. Thousands of translucent blue screens opened in midair. Students screamed. Professors froze. Guild representatives stood. A new message displayed across the center. System administrator connection established. My reset button turned black. The reset fragment around my wrist burned. A man appeared in the center of the arena. No gate opened. No teleportation light. He simply existed where empty space had been. Tall, white hair, black suit, no weapon. Above his head was a name. The Architect. Level, unavailable. Stats. Unavailable. Class. Unavailable. He looked around the arena like a landlord inspecting an apartment after hearing somebody had installed a washing machine without permission. Then his eyes found me. He smiled. Jae-min. My status window changed. For the first time in my life, the reset button was not free. A cost appeared beneath it. Lifespan, 10 years. The entire stadium vanished. Not physically. 1 second I was standing beside Seorin. The next, I was in a black room with no floor, no ceiling, and millions of status windows floating in the distance. I could still hear Seorin shouting my name somewhere far away. The Architect stood across from me. You have been using something that belongs to me. I looked at my points. 142. Then at his status. For half a second, the unavailable label flickered. I saw one number. Strength, 9,999. Then it disappeared. My mouth went dry. He raised one hand. Behind him, 7 doors appeared. Each door carried one stat symbol. Strength, agility, defense, mana, intelligence, perception, luck. Then an 8th door appeared behind me. Reset. The Architect smiled wider. Return the authority and I will send you home. I looked at the new 10-year cost beneath my reset button. Then at the 8th door. Then at him, and I started laughing. He frowned. You find this amusing? A little. Why? Because after 3 years of changing my build for every monster, exam, assassin, summoner, tournament, and terrifying honor student with spreadsheet-based bloodlust, he had finally made the same mistake as everyone else. He thought my reset button was what made me dangerous. He thought taking away free resets meant taking away my advantage. He had not noticed the 3 save build slots were still active. He had not noticed the reset fragment had opened a new line beneath them. Copy target build. Available. And standing directly in front of me was a man with 9,999 strength. I smiled. Because you just showed me your stats. His expression changed. For the first time, the Architect stopped looking like a god and started looking like someone who had accidentally sent his password to the group chat. I reached toward the new option. Before I could press it, all 7 doors burst open. Something enormous moved behind each one. The black room shook. The Architect's smile returned. Then let us see, he said. How well you build when every choice can kill you. 7 boss health bars appeared. My 3 save build slots began flashing. The copy command lit up, and somewhere beyond the 8th door, something knocked from the other side. 3 slow knocks. Then my own voice whispered through the door. Do not trust the reset button. I stopped moving. The Architect looked toward the door. For the first time, he looked afraid. And that was when I realized the worst possible thing. Whatever gave me this power was not finished with me. It might not even be mine. And the next build I chose could decide a lot more than one dungeon.